Hi, all. Welcome to yet another Koot podcast series where we discuss global tech adoption trends with global industry leaders. And today we have Miss Latha, who is the founder at AutoAscend. She comes with more than 30 years of her experience in the GCC. She's a GCC leader and GCC veteran. Earlier to AutoAscend, she was the head VP and head of technical center at Continental Automotive. So let's welcome Miss Latha. Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much for taking out time for us and our audience. Really looking forward to learn a lot from you in this today's podcast, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Nageshwari. Looking forward for the conversation as well.
Absolutely, ma'am. Let's start with Auto Ascent, what it is about, and maybe your brief career journey. Your 30 years of journey in a nutshell, ma'am.
Yeah, so I started my career in 1992. Yeah, I've been one of the first generation GCC employees, I would call it. Started off with BHEL, around 2.5 years there. And 1995, when Siemens started their GCC in India, I
Hmm.
joined them.
Okay.
Spent a couple of years in Germany, to set up the Center for Automotive in India. Worked there for around more than 9 years, and then also moved into a business development assignment in Southern Africa. Then later in 2004, I joined Bosch. I think a lot of my time was spent in Bosch in my career journey, around 17 long years,
Oh, wonderful.
and did a lot of roles in Bosch, primarily working on the powertrain and electrification side. I was always an automotive fan. And then in 2001, I joined Continental as the Vice President and Head of Technical Center India.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's my career journey. And in October, I wanted to do something on my own. And I started this company called AutoAscend. So we are basically into consulting and leadership development.
Okay.
So the experience which I have in the GCCs for 30 plus years, and I also have some certifications in coaching as well as mentoring and psychometric assessment and everything. So I always wanted to do something which is a blend of business strategy, technology, people.
Yeah.
And I think this is a chance that I can do something on my own. And that is where AutoAscend came. And currently, I'm, pursuing a lot of assignments in this area.
Wow.
So quite interesting journey, I would say. Very different from the corporate, but it gives
Absolutely.
you the flexibility. At the same time, it is high responsibility as well. But I'm enjoying this phase.
Absolutely. I mean, you're at engineering by heart, and now you're trying something in the business. How did you get that idea?
So it's not only business. For example, it's a lot of technology.
Okay.
For one of the groups, Unaminda group in India, I'm the technology advisor for the entire group. So it is a
Okay.
core technology in automotive. And
Got
then with another company, Axia, I'm a strategic advisor. So that is basically on the strategy part.
it.
I'm also a partner for a couple of consulting organizations. So there I can use my GCC knowledge and the strategy part. So it's a mix of all what I do. And I'm also coaching some CXO minus one
Okay.
people. So that also gives me the leadership and the connect with the industry. So it's a mix of all and the mix of what I like, I would call it.
Wonderful, wonderful, ma'am. Now I get it. Yeah. And you have been in the GCC since last 30 years. And I'm sure, as you said, Siemens, you were first maybe 10 employees, ma'am, in Siemens? Or
Maybe I think there were 50 plus
50,
employees at that
okay,
time. Yes.
first 15. So definitely, while the GCC is the new gold rush, and you have seen the journey, since when it was setting up in its emerging. So, which were some of the defining moments in the GCC transformation?
So I think more than defining moments, I would probably categorize it into defining decades. That is easy to talk about it, right?
Absolutely.
Because since we have come a long way from 1990 to now, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think the whole GCC journey started when we had this post-economic liberalization in India.
absolutely.
And some of the pioneers were, I think, first I remember one of the pioneers was Texas Instruments. I think they started even before 1990.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, we had, that's one of the technology GCCs which was there in India. Later we had, Citibank, and there were many banking finance institutions which came in, setting up for IT services. Then we had this Y2K boom at that point of time. I don't know whether your generation will know it, right? And also basic back office work. So
Yeah.
in the early times, I think it was probably in the 90s, we had companies like Siemens, we had Bosch, We had Continental. They were all, they all had their manufacturing organizations in India, and they also set up their GCCs. So I would say that when they started, it was basic offshoring, extended workbench tasks. That is where the headquarters tested waters in India. So that's,
Yeah.
I would call, the 1990s was for that.
Mm.
Then came, when we talk about 2000, let us talk about 2000. I think it talks about capability expansion. There was a lot of confidence that India brought in
Mm.
terms of
Okay.
bringing the competency, the engineering competency, the
Mm.
speed, and so on. So if I remember right, there were around 700 plus GCCs, even
Mm.
at around that time, 500 to 700. I don't really remember the number, but we were diversifying into R&D at that time. We talked about product engineering, and there were some GCs at that time even started talking about KPIs beyond cost savings. Yeah, so
Mm.
leveraging India's talent for complex function development.
Mm.
And some of the automotive GCCs like Bosch, we also started building our own product, because India was a big market which the globe cannot ignore. So,
Yeah.
a lot of local for local products, were starting to get developed in India. So
Yeah.
it was already moving up the value chain at that point of time. And I would say that 2010 is when the optimization shift happened. So GCC is kind of maturing into agile, analytics driven units, which I would call it as the stage three maturity,
Yeah.
which influence global decisions.
Mm.
Maybe, in the BFSI side, it was with the digital tools, automation, and so on.
Yeah.
And in the engineering side, it was the product teams moving from support into, building products on our own, owning projects, global projects. For example, in Continental, they had the complete responsibility of Japan and Korea projects completely done from India, starting from
Okay.
quotation to start of production. Everything
Mm.
was done in India. So Bosch also had similar. For example, I was, a key account from India for the Jaguar Land Rover account. So we had the complete engineering done out of India. And if similarly for Brazil, Russia, India, China, we had
Mm.
complete responsibility in India. So I think the kind of responsibility evolved, and everybody started developing products for India as well.
Mm.
For example, Continental had an ABS product which was completely
ABS.
developed for the India market, which is low cost, right? So when you come
Yeah.
from the international companies, most of these products are sometimes over-engineered for India,
Yeah.
or sometimes it's more expensive. So you need to also look at what the market needs.
Mm.
And being in India, that's a very good thing, that we can look at what the market needs. It has to be
Mm.
price competitive.
Mm.
The driving cycles are different in India. So you try to develop products which are basically for India also.
Mm.
At the same time, what also happened was, there was a lot of focus shift because the cloud came into picture. Then we
Yeah.
had, cloud engineering,
Yeah.
software as a service, data platforms, AI, analytics, all that started coming in end of 2010, I would call it, end of
Yeah.
2010s, not 2010, end of 2010s, right?
End of 2010s. Yeah.
And then we had the 2020, or even before that, I would call that there was a lot
Mm.
of expectation change which was happening from the
Yeah.
headquarters.
Okay.
So one thing which happened, as you know, is like, we breathe AI, we talk about AI
Yeah.
29 a day, right? So AI and digital became the core of the
Okay.
business. And India started becoming an epicenter with deep talent as well as
Mm.
the ecosystem maturity. So we had the startups, and we had a lot of enabling factors for India for these topics to come in, right?
Mm.
And the beauty of India is also the ecosystem partnership, what we have, the
Yeah.
university, the local tech ecosystem, what is there, right? So
Yeah.
the focus started, or not even the focus started, I would say the focus shifted from the volume game to
Mm.
complete value game. So when
Mm.
we were in Bosch, when I started in Bosch, everybody used to say, how many people are there working
Yeah.
for the GCC was a question. But I think now nobody really worries about how many people work for the GCC. It is talking about what is the business impact that
Mm.
you can create from India. For example, we talk about IP creation from India. What is the full product responsibility from India? What are the regions that you can handle completely from India? What is the speed and agility that comes out of India? Yeah, and what kind of COEs are you setting up for new business in India and so on, right? So the whole topic shifted from the cost to business outcome, and that is where I think, and COVID also helped us a lot, because you remember that India really played very well during the
Absolutely.
COVID.
Yeah.
where we could bring in a lot of global trust and traction of business into India. So this is how the evolving. I don't think there are points. It is like decades of evolution that has happened, and currently I think we are at a very good stage where the talent in India is respected, and we are looking at business outcomes. The entire KPI landscape has changed. When I joined, I would remember we report the number of headcount, what is the cost per hour, and there were just basic QCD parameters. But now we are talking about what is the IP creation, what's the speed. We are talking about India cost with China speed. A whole lot of
Absolutely.
different metrics which are coming into play, which I think it's really good for India at this point of time.
Absolutely, Mama. Thank you so much for sharing. I think I'll break this into the decade-wise transformation that you mentioned. And so, actually, one point that you mentioned is because India had the local market, and that's why they took a chance and they tested the water by, giving us more, strategic work and product development work. So, which, according to you, which GCCs were initially, was it the automotive based GCCs or the BFS side, where actually the shift happened, ma'am, from the back office, mere cost arbitrage to the actual R&D? Which industry it is? I'm just out of curiosity.
Okay. I think it is all industries. Every industry kind
Okay.
of transformed. I think if you look at the new GCCs, since I'm now consulting, I also talk to the new GCCs which are coming in India. It's very interesting that some of them don't even see it as a back office. They
Hmm.
want to start with development responsibility shifting to India, because recently I was consulting a retail GCC which came from US, and
Okay.
they told that out of the 9 products we have, we want to start 2 product line full responsibility in India in the first year itself. This is the
Okay.
shift. Probably earlier it would have taken 10 years to get that confidence and then do it, right? So
Yeah.
what's really happening is, I would say it is an engineering talent,
Yeah.
demonstrated capability that India has shown.
Hmm.
And the meta narrative, what I would call is periphery to the core. That is how
Hmm.
it is shifting, right? So that many GCCs, as I mentioned, have they have delivered a lot of IPs from here.
Great.
The second thing is the trust acceleration that has happened.
Yeah.
I think thanks to COVID a lot, they demonstrated the remote agility that we have, the
Hmm.
digital prowess that we have, the
Hmm.
resilience that forged in a lot of trust
Hmm.
also during the pandemic. Then, as I mentioned, the mature ecosystem that is there.
Hmm.
Another thing which also helped India is also the expansion possibilities into the tier two,
Okay.
because most of these GCCs started with maybe the
Metro.
metros first, and
Yeah.
now I think because of cost and talent reason, there is
Hmm.
a lot of tier two expansion possibilities, which is also helping the growth of GCCs.
Hmm.
And I also remember that we had to the ability to scale in a very short time. So when I
Hmm.
joined in Conti in 2021, we were close to 2,000 plus people, and
Hmm.
then we actually moved into 4,500, 4,600 people in a matter of 2.5, 3 years. And
Okay.
it was not only volume growth, it was also value growth, because we were
Yeah.
also taking up full responsibility of topics. So the ability to in terms of volume
Yeah.
and value has helped all GCCs to move on, right?
Actually,
Yeah, and one more topic which I would like to add is how the leadership has transformed.
yeah.
There were a lot of leaders in India now play global roles,
Yeah.
and they have a seat on the table. They have an influencing role on India. That also has shifted the narrative. So I think it's a combination of multiple factors, and obviously government is also helping with the ease of doing business in India and so on. So multiple things which has helped India to be the GCC hub of the world at this point of time.
Absolutely, ma'am. Actually, you preempted a couple of my questions. Actually, in fact, I've stopped asking about the value versus volume. Most of the GCCs are standing for value as of now rather than volume. And you mentioned about the talent and scaling up. So, what was your talent, your team building mantra? Because you've scaled phenomenally. Let it be Conti or your Siemens, you have scaled from, I think, hundreds to thousands. So, how was the talent acquisition? Did you go to tier two or only tier one?
So I think it was different in different companies depending upon the strategy, because normally, for example, in Bosch, we actually moved away from Bangalore. There were centers in Coimbatore, in Pune, yeah,
Yeah.
in other cities as well. So Coimbatore was one of the places where when I was head of powertrain, we also started,
Oh,
the Coimbatore part, and then we look at Vietnam as a center. Then we looked
yeah.
at Poland, Mexico. So there were centers across the globe. So GCCs were not only looking at GCC in India, but they were also looking at some of the low cost centers
Hmm.
being steered from India, being led from India.
Hmm. Hmm.
But Continental, if you look at it, Continental Automotive, we had only one center. And
Hmm.
interestingly, all of us were housed in one building in
Okay.
Electronic City.
Yeah.
And I think it's one time, beyond a number, if there is a political risk, a
Yeah.
geo risk which is happening, then you will move to another city. So I think
Yeah.
the strategy of moving to the tier two cities is depending on the GCC, the type of talent that you get,
Hmm.
and also the volume. I mean,
Hmm.
if you're able to get the right volume in the right
Hmm.
place, then I think
Yeah.
people like to continue there. But I think if you look at, Coimbatore, we have a lot of good institutions and
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of
Mhm.
mechanical hardware engineers that you get there. So it was a right choice for Bosch to move there for the engineering talent,
Yeah.
and they could attract a lot of talent from the south, I mean Kerala and Tamil Nadu and also on, right?
But given the Flipkarts of the world, or Ola, or what was the initial challenges with employer branding, because nobody knows what is Conti, or yeah, Bosch, I think, yeah, I mean,
There was not too much of a challenge, right? Yeah, yeah. So there was no challenge to build the other things. Only thing is that,
okay,
we have to find out what work will suit that geography. For example,
okay,
when you are, moving to Vietnam, the strategy was that, a lot of Japanese projects can be done from Vietnam because one is
okay,
the nearshoring part because they
yeah,
are closer to Japan. Second thing is that you get a lot of employees who speak Japanese in Vietnam. So it is
got,
easier for, customer conversations and so on. Then when you start a Mexico center, you try to put your US projects in Mexico because you also have a time zone advantage, competency advantage, proximity to customer. So there's a lot of factors which kind of, ways when you are building centers in other parts.
absolutely. And ma'am, you mentioned about the change in the global leadership roles. They are having more say in the projects, or they have more, part in the decision making, more budget. Now, initially, what were the initial challenges, ma'am? And you are a champion of innovation, and I'm sure you have worked with electrification models and software-led innovations. So those time versus now, what was the, because I'm sure you would have let it be budget, or asking, navigating in the organization then and now, what were the challenges and what is the opportunity now? I mean,
Okay, so I think sometimes, some things become harder than expected, right? So one is that
yeah,
everybody celebrates the headcount explosion, which is like, 1.9 million jobs in India and then 64 billion revenue, AI pilots and so on, right? But at the same time, what no one talks about enough is there a headquarters confidence gap? That stalls the maturity despite the proven delivery. So that is where the leadership comes into picture, where you need to have this constant conversation with the headquarters to align with the strategy to make sure that we are doing the right things in India and we are delivering the right business outcomes from India, right?
yeah,
So when we talked about the GCC, you talked about talent, right? So GCC is like, they scaled into kind of mega centers, right? For example, Bosch has
yeah,
28,000 people employing. And then you have talent retention and also hyper specialization in the talent is also a challenge, right?
yeah,
It emerged as the real silent killer because it came harder than expected. There was a time when most of the GCCs had, I would say, 18 to 20% fluctuation. So that's something which is there. The second thing which we faced at any point of time is the skill obsolescence cycle. For example, when we moved from when we started in Bosch, we were looking at pure IC engines. Then started electrification. Then you had SDVs. So a car which was something, a mechanical device which took us
yeah,
from a point A to point B, became an electronic device and now a software powered device. So which means that the competency of the employees, what you have, also demands that you need to have continuous upskilling, sometimes de-skilling also, and even reskilling all the time,
yeah,
right? So this is a challenge which is there, and somebody who has emerged as master of the game is somebody who mastered this art of reskilling very quickly, able to predict the demands in the market, and able to reskill the people. And the second thing is the cultural aspect there,
Yeah,
because reskilling is not easy unless you have a learning culture in the organization.
absolutely.
So how do you set in the learning culture in the organization? How do you make sure that your people are, um, you know, uh, ready to meet the next challenge? So we had, when we were in Bosch for IC to electrification, we kind of reskilled a lot of people. There were a lot of trainings which happened. Obviously, initially there was headquarter support, but then we ramped up the team from scratch to an 600, 700 people who was working on electrification, right? So I think like, and the other challenge as a leader, which I faced, is also sometimes the leadership bandwidth, because you have a bandwidth crunch. One is that you are juggling the headquarter quotient, which is the headquarter alignment,
Mm.
headquarter strategy alignment, trying to position India. That's one
Yeah,
part, right? Second thing is that you need to show innovation also,
yeah,
because innovation is, you're moving from a volume game to a value game.
yeah.
Then, so you have to wear multiple hats, and then you're talking about ecosystem. For example, earlier when you in the automotive industry, you had one supplier, one OEM. You powertrain, you supply to this OEM, and you are done. But you look at the scenario now. There is the whole thing has changed. Everything is co-creation through collaboration. When you make any automotive product, you have multiple suppliers, you have tech companies, you have semiconductor companies, you have startup, whole lot of people come together to make a product or to make a
Yeah.
solution or to make a platform. And this is also a leadership challenge, right? So this is a kind of a silent leadership battle, which I call, yeah, inside. So, you need to spend time, and then you have operations.
Yeah.
So you are supposed to drive strategy, you're supposed to drive innovation, and then you have the operations. Then you are supposed to play the role of a ecosystem orchestrator. Then you need to follow the government policy. So it becomes your leadership bandwidth is something which you need to manage and balance very well. So this is something, and then you also had many of the leaders also had global responsibilities. They were
Mm.
actually
Yeah.
taking dual roles, one for India, one for the globe, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that is something, and you always have to really be mindful about the innovation versus scale trap. The one
Yeah.
side you tell, you have to excel at volume. Other type, so then you become a big center syndrome. Oh, you are so many people. That becomes a syndrome. At the same time, you look at how many IPs are you able to generate. So
Okay.
this is actually a very, very interesting game, and I would say it becomes more interesting because sometimes what happens is there is a headquarters also, they are insecure.
Yeah.
I might say there is a loss of control fear from the headquarters. So
Yeah.
sometimes they don't want to give some of the flagship projects to India,
Oh.
even though there is competency in India, right? So this is the thing which you need to manage, where we need to pitch in for ownership, and then prove fast. That is there.
Okay. Okay.
And another dimension also is this decision vacuum.
Yeah.
For example, budget recruitment. There are many things which the HQ try to control still. They like to do, and then that becomes a bottleneck for India to grow. So how do you manage to navigate this topic also, right? And then you have the Indian customers. The Indian customers always tell, we can't afford this price. This is engineered for German market. So, please make something for India. And then, please, and the time to market is very short. So that's, I mean, these are things which, each of us battled at, and I think all of us have formed our own mantras on how to solve it to a large extent. I'm sure that it's not like a perfected art yet, but we
Okay.
know how to do it now because you've done it all in multiple areas, multiple regions. It is good. And one more dimension is, it was not only HQ in India.
Okay.
For example, in Continental, we had Romania as a very strong. They had their centers. Mexico was very strong. You had
Okay.
China. Then you have Singapore.
Huh.
So when you make a product, it's or a platform, it is not only Indian HQ. You also have to coordinate with multiple centers. So
Hmm.
how do you, and with different cultures, different time zones, different intents.
Yeah.
So collaborating, that also is a part of the leadership journey. But I would say it's quite interesting.
But how's the situation now? Is it the same now, ma'am?
I think, we all have learned the art of doing it. I think first time when you do it, you're not sure
Yeah.
how do you do it. Yeah, and the whole thing I always tell in leadership is that, there is no leadership without failures.
Absolutely.
The success is, are you able to bounce back and bounce forward, and how
Okay.
fast can you do it? So I
Okay.
think all of us have failed at some point of time, made
Yeah.
mistakes, learned out of it. But good part is that now there is a GCC playbook available, because many of us have gone through it. We all have contributed, and the ecosystem has good connect. For example, NASCOM is a very good
Okay.
forum. I'm a member of NASCOM, and we meet every quarter. So there's a lot of lessons learned, exchanges, and so on. So the ecosystem is also helping us so that we don't make the same mistakes over and over, right?
Oh, wonderful, ma'am. Yeah, there is different playbooks in different industries. Maybe
Yeah.
for retail, I would like to share one. The GCC leaders say they keep having the a conversation with the HQ, and they keep visiting to the US in person, and they take part in the town hall, and they pitch for the product, and they kind of, so it's like the internal pitching for the product
Yeah.
project, and they take the ownership and they prove it with the ROI. So
It's high competition. It's high competition everywhere. Inside the enterprise itself, you find competition with
yeah,
HQ, which other centers and so on. But that makes it more interesting. But it's always
yeah,
like, somebody gives and then you do it. There is no fun and there is no energy in that, right?
absolutely.
And there is also interesting. I also like to have these positive conflicts sometimes, because if there is no conflict, there is no energy. I mean, somebody
Yeah,
tells you this and you completely align, then there is no fun in doing it. How do you manage this positive conflicts for the good of the enterprise?
yeah.
That is also a leadership thing which we need to do.
Sure, sure. No, absolutely, ma'am. Now, I think we have come to the second last question of our podcast. This, which I asked most of our doubts, and given your rich background and rich, you're a GCC veteran. But one question, ma'am, like one maybe a small story about resilience. Maybe it can be in your personal life or a professional. A small resilient story which actually really comes first in your mind right now, and which really molded the person you are now.
Okay, so I think all of us are molded by the experiences what you have gone through. So I don't think that there's one particular story, but there are maybe three points
Sure.
which kind of strikes me. So the first thing is, when I went to Germany for the first time in 1995,
Okay.
as an engineer who had hardly even traveled anywhere. I mean, just out inside India only we have traveled. Then you move there, and then it's a new culture, it's a new way
Yeah.
of working. There are hardly any women in the entire floor. So that's okay. Diversity is a different topic, but at the same time, there was a lot of learning. So what I learned from the German engineering is the kind of precision what they do. Yeah,
Mm.
the depth in engineering and the focused approach. That was really amazing. So that is some big learning which I have from. And the other thing is the style of communication, because sometimes in India you have this, you go round and round, and when Germans are to the point, so clarity in thinking and clarity of thought. I think that's something which it's not a story, but this is a big learning for me working with the German culture, especially the first time when I went. This was a cultural shift, but it was a learning. Yeah.
Is
The
it a
second
resilient
something,
story, ma'am? I think it doesn't sound like a resilient story, ma'am. It sounds like an opportunity which you got.
but the thing is that, I still remember the first question when I went. In the first week, somebody asked me, are you an engineer or are you a finance analyst or something? When they did not expect a lady engineer to come. So first
Okay.
of all, that I have the competence to do an engineering work in the automotive field, which is very much mechanical, and I had to
Okay.
really prove it.
Okay.
So that was the story of resilience.
I
And then
mean, your originality, your identification was questioned.
yes, yes, yes. And then
Okay.
you need to really fight it out and prove that
Oh,
you can also do it. Yeah. The second one was, I think, when I took up this business development and sales assignment in Africa, I knew nothing about it except that I had done some pre-sale job. I had done nothing. Then you land in Africa. Johannesburg was my base, and in business development, it's a very, very cost-sensitive market.
okay.
And the products this was my only non-automotive assignments, where I was looking at banking, finance, and insurance, and security systems and all that. So it was a kind of when I went and met the first customer, it was a huge learning for me. I had not sold earlier, right?
Yeah.
So it was a huge learning, the kind of questions they asked. So I think the first meeting was a failure, I'm sure. Yeah,
Okay.
because I was not even sure of how exactly to approach.
Okay.
certain topics. And I think there I had a lot of learning in that assignment. One is, how do you do business development? What is real customer centricity?
Okay.
How do you, prepare solutions which are more customer centric and market centric, cost
Mm,
sensitive market, and so on, right? How do you culturally adapt? Because you have the colored people there, the whites there, and
mm,
there are a lot of cultural differences in that country itself. So
mm.
how do you adapt your leadership style, your selling style, into that kind of a context, right? So there were failures, but as I mentioned, it was the ability to bounce back and bounce forward was the biggest topic in terms of resilience. And the last one is when I took over as head of tech center, not far away,
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
It was a COVID hire. Yeah,
Okay.
I joined in the middle of COVID, and my interview was, virtual. Everything was virtual, and then you are taking over a center already with 2,000 plus people. You have the previous, my predecessor had left couple of months back already,
Yeah.
so there was nobody to hand over.
Yeah.
And then the company had so many challenges. Every company had challenges during COVID, and we were growing, and we
Yeah.
also had high attrition at that point of time.
Okay.
One thing is that I learned a lot of leadership lessons from there. So what I learned is, in terms of how do you do your continuous adaptation. So what leadership style I had in Bosch, which was more a very result oriented, business focused. I was people centric, but I was also very result.
Okay.
That was not the style here. So
Yeah.
the thing is that, and in county, I had done everything other than powertrain electrification. It was ADAS, connected vehicle, safety, everything which I had not done. So there's a lot of technology learning, very,
Mm.
very different culture of the organization. So I think the whole, idea was, how do you remain humble? How do you remain curious? How do you, be open to knowledge in terms of culture, in terms of people, and so on. And there was a lot of leadership. Like, as I mentioned, there was no face-to-face, connects. So how do you even build? As I mentioned, the talent tsunami, as I used to call it, a talent tsunami. So much of attrition is going. Then we were also worried whether there's a culture collapse risk because people are all working elsewhere, right? How do you even build a culture for
Yeah.
a company? So the culture
Right.
collapse risk was something, and you're onboarding new people in this. So and then there's a and then the competency accelerator that we need to bring in because the business was growing. So I think this was quite hard. I would say the first 6 to 8 months was really hard. But I think that is where your resilience,
Mm.
adaptability, your continuous learning mentality, and most I think it is also the compassionate leadership
Mm.
comes to picture. So I think these three, I would call it as certain milestones
Okay.
in my career, which has taught me not that every day is a learning, but at the same time, this was big leaps of learning. This was where I had to be strong, resilient, and not give up attitude, kind of a thing, which was which had to be there. And I think I treasure these things also because, as you mentioned, these are opportunities, these are learning.
Yeah.
Every such stories also bring in a lot of learning, which will shape you as an individual, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, last part, ma'am. It's a rapid fire. So I'll be asking you five questions and try to be little short in the answer, maybe maximum one sentence or one word if it is.
Okay.
So let's start. After 30 years of experience in India, I mean, in India GCC, what really excites you the most?
Continuous learning.
Okay. Speed or perfection?
Pardon?
Speed or perfection?
So I would say it is a combination.
Anyone if you had to choose, ma'am?
I would say perfection.
Yeah, I guessed it because you mentioned about the German thing. The first, the
Yeah, speed is important, but at the same time, the quality what you deliver becomes very important.
absolutely cost optimization versus value creation.
Value creation.
Great. Legacy system or greeting innovation. Sorry, greenfield innovation.
As an Indian leader, I would say I can't choose one or the other. It has to be a combination. because innovation is something which I'm close to
Yeah.
my heart, because only that will not grow an enterprise. So you may have to look at a combination of that
Okay.
practically.
Okay. And the last question, one book or a podcast or an article or a role model who really touched you and, it has shaped the kind of leadership that you have.
My biggest role model is my father. He passed away. He is
Okay.
my he taught me to be human and bring in the human values first before anything, and I practice it as much as I can.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Padma. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really fun and insightful, conversing with you. I'm really looking forward to be in touch with you and also invite you in more such, maybe panel discussions or a workshop. Thank you so much for taking out time and sharing your insights, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you to you too. Yeah, it was really pleasure and interesting questions.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.